The iconic Wolf of Wall Street Lamborghinis have both recently been offered at auction, which led me to think, what have our project cars and barn finds been doing over the last 2 years? Have they been finished? What are they worth? And what would Leo's car be worth if it was fully restored? Stick around, let's find out.
Buying or selling a classic car? Head to historics.co.uk or click below for a free valuation.
Hello and welcome to the Historics vidcast here at the festive Historics HQ. Now, before we get started, remember to like and subscribe the Historics YouTube channel. Without your likes and follows, we wouldn't bother doing this. So make sure you do click like, subscribe, hurl abuse, have some fun. Now, this week, I have with me the young guns, the millennials. Since we're talking a little bit about a movie from 2013, I think it was only right to get you guys in.
Right team for it.
Yes, but if you are interested, do stick around, because at the end we've got a festive alternative King's speech from our very own Mark Perkins to engorge with. So do stick around. But let's get on to the first topic of the day.
Yep.
Now, those two cars were offered by, interestingly, Sotheby's and Bonhams.
That's right.
And obviously the one I'm really interested in, ironically, is the one that hasn't yet sold, which is the smashed up
car, yeah.
which I'm sure will never, ever be restored. So a bit of a lump.
You'd be
there.
crazy
It's
to
gonna be-
restore it, really, wouldn't
Going
you?
to be in a glass box, that one, for the rest of its life.
It got me thinking, seeing it in that state, as to the cars that we've sold over the last decade or less that have been projects, have been barn finds, one as recently as that DB24, and where are they now and what have people done with them? Because I think a lot of people see them sold and they disappear. Very rarely do we see them come back on the market. Let's start with that DB24.
Yeah, the DB24. So we had that obviously in the Mercedes-Benz auction in November, and lots of interest. It was no reserve, and it was a car that had been basically in a barn for over 50 years.
Literally, I mean, the pictures gave that away.
I think it was 53 years. So hadn't been touched, and lots of interest. It made around 50,000 on the hammer.
So £50,000. So
yeah.
in bits.
So
presumably a lot of metal work, a lot of restoration work.
Huge amount of work to be done. And the chap who bought it, as far as I'm aware, is going to get onto that work pretty quickly and restore it to his specifications. Obviously, the beauty of it for him, I think, yes, it's going to cost a lot of money, but it can be done to his spec.
Yes.
It can be done in the colour that he wants. And he can put his own spin on it, which is the beauty of restoration projects.
I think a lot of that comes down to, with these restoration projects, they do seem sometimes astronomical amounts of money to spend when we know what the final figure is.
Yeah.
But so few people are happy with other people's restorations that they just think, well, actually, I just want to do it in my own way. And we've said before, journey over destination.
Yeah. Well, it's similar to houses, isn't it? People like to restore them to their own specification
or their own shade of magnolia.
Yeah, exactly. So he can go and get the right people to do that.
So
he trusts.
What is a DB24 fully restored worth in today's market?
You're looking at, depending on the restoration quality, you're looking at anywhere between sort of 100 and 200,000. It's that broad.
So he's 50 down. He's probably going to cost.
It could cost him, again, depending on how much he spends and where he takes it. It could cost him anything sort of upwards of 100,000. Quite easily, if not.
Good way to move sideways, but as you say, he will have what he wants at the end of it.
Yeah, I'm sure for him it's just about the final product, enjoying the process and having something he can enjoy in the future.
So one of the most spectacular ones that I remember us selling was actually James, our colleague, who sold a Lamborghini Countach, 5000S, and it was in 2019, if I have my details to hand.
Might be more recently.
It was 2021, apologies. Yeah. It actually sold for £257,000. Now,
and you can buy a sort of road-going one for pretty much that.
Yeah.
It might not be the nicest one, but you could find one running.
Drive it home.
Spoke to the chap in the same realm, said, what's your plans? There's a chap in the Midlands, and sending it straight to Italy, it's going to be better than new. And he said, I cannot find a Countach that I would be happy with, so I'm better off just doing it my way.
I suppose people of that era, if that's been his poster car since he was a child, he's worked all his life, he wants the best one, nothing else will do.
F40s are now making, absurd amounts of money compared to where they were 3, 4, 5 years ago.
1 year ago even.
And those two cars that were recently offered at auction that we spoke about at the lead-in, the particular, I think it was a complete car which was sold by Bonhams, is the other way around.
I think Sotheby's have the complete car,
which sold for 1.6. So 1.6 for the complete car, so a car with provenance, and then I think the high bid for the one at Bonhams was 1.3. I actually think You said this in the office the other day.
I think if I personally, a movie car I wouldn't pay a premium to own one if I wanted to use it. So
we joke this. Literally, Fraser knows no movies. I think he doesn't watch TV. I don't know what he does.
Well, he does when he goes home.
I think he just flicks through Auto Trader for values or something.
I'd rather, if I wanted a Countach, I'd rather save the $1 million.
See, I totally disagree. I'd have the Wolf of Wall Street car. Such an iconic film.
Yeah, I'd have it.
Such an iconic scene.
Yeah.
I'd have the smashed up one.
I think if you've got the money to pay 3 times the value of the car, have the smashed up one and buy a normal one to drive.
Yeah, exactly that. And
that's what
I'd stick it in a Perspex box in my 53-bedroom mansion in my own cinema or something
Jordan
like that, or on the back of my yacht. Who knows? That's how I would do it. But interestingly, I thought, I mean, it didn't sell at 1.3. I thought that was good value because we spoke about the Risky Business 928.
Yeah, and to me, different eras. I confess I've never seen Risky Business, so
I'm surprised you've even seen Wolf of Wall Street, given your history. But yeah, it was an incredible. How much was it in the end?
I think it's $2 million. And
$2 million.
If the Countach and to me, Wolf of Wall Street's it's a more iconic film because it's my era.
That's an age thing, yeah.
But in time, I think.
Yeah, but the Countach worth less money.
See, the way I think about these things is, so Risky Business was a big movie of its time and has remained a big movie and a very iconic movie. If The Wolf of Wall Street continues to be an iconic movie for the next 20 years, then that value of those cars actually could be money in the bank, couldn't it? It could be absolutely a fantastic investment, as long as cinematography and movies all sort of does the same thing. I think that's actually a bloody good find. But yeah, that particular one, going to Italy, absolutely nut and bolt. I wish I could see it finished.
Well, that car, I follow an Instagram page. I don't know if it's the owner who set it up, but I believe it is. I think it's Instagram is My Countach, and it's tracking the whole process of the restoration. It's gone to Lamborghini in Italy. There's some period photos of it in driving through Kensington when it was black originally. And yeah, he's got a good history of that car, and the sort of the process of the restoration is all documented, which is quite cool, really.
I think it's very cool. And actually, that's the modern world, and Instagrams and YouTube's actually makes that quite handy. You can really document something in a much more detail than we used to. So Fraser, give me an example of a car that you've seen.
Back in 2019, it must have been at Ascot, we sold a Ferrari Dino restoration, and quite interesting, it was originally a rental car.
That was the yellow car, wasn't it?
Nice rental car. It was a UK one. It went to Australia in the 70s, all stripped down to be restored, which never happened. It was stored for 40 years, often the case. So it's quite a good starting point because it wasn't a rusty barn find.
So it was part restored.
Yeah, and it was all there. So it's just a big.
That
big
again was another
puzzle.
Example of a car selling hugely in more than it should, really.
Yeah,
given
I had a look, and it sold for best part of 213. It sold for, which was quite strong money at the time. And if you can spend as much as you want on a restoration.
We've sold restored cars this year for 275, 250, 275s. Older restorations, but nice cars.
Again, you can buy a road-going one for that, but it just
300
goes back to
would
the
buy
same
you a lovely
thing.
one,
People want something that's perfectly restored by the people they trust. Isn't it?
And is that what's happening? Is he going forward?
Don't know a huge amount. It's gone to quite a private sort of collector, but as far as we're aware, it's been properly restored.
Every single nut and bolt, absolute perfection.
And again, it's probably someone that's always wanted one. The time's finally come. And
I remember they were incredibly interesting, that story on that car. I know the client very well. Sadly, he's no longer with us, but his family are. And they went through all the detail of that, and they had it for some time, and it was brilliantly presented, which often they are with these barn finds. It's probably why they make so much money.
Effort, don't they?
They make a real effort for them, and they often make great deals of money. We've done the same with DB5s, and actually another one I wanted to bring out, which is very similar in the veins of that Dino, was we had a Facel Vega Excellence, I think it was an Excellence, which is the one with the suicide doors. It's an incredibly cool car. Same thing. Someone actually got exhausted through the process. Facels are incredibly
expensive to restore.
I mean, other than that, on Facel, there is no one that can give you the parts. And so if it's not one of the American engine parts, you're starting to machine things bespoke.
Fabricate stuff up.
And he got 85% of the way there. We sold it at Brooklands many years ago, and then just ran out of steam, and someone bought it for $212.
Was this the car that came back to us at a later date from memory?
No, not that one. So this on that same vein. So Facels, strangely, they seem to be a bit like that. Boomerangs. We had a red I think it was a Facel 2.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah.
And in fairness, it had holes in it. It was in a terrible
they do.
state. Very rare car. It was absolutely shot to pieces. Sold it at Ascot in 2019. That was 2019. He bought that for £141,000. Same thing, all kept up with the idea of restoring it. The
Full
story
restoration, the
starts.
full works. Yeah.
Came back to us 2 years later, restored, sold for 150.
Yeah.
So it doesn't always work in favour.
No.
He probably went a little bit too quick on that one, but
I think it helps if you're maybe not on the higher end cars, but if you can buy a cheaper project and you can do a lot of the work yourself, then it's probably not a bad way to do it. Yeah.
There are sort of certainly winners and losers as there is in any sort of restoration process, but that one was.
I think generally when you're looking to restore a car, the investment side of it is less of a
secondary,
sort of priority. I think it's more you want the best car you can possibly find. And
most people I speak to, I
that's
say to them, when they've done big restoration, I say sort of, why didn't you buy one that was done? And it's always because they just like having a project.
Yeah.
And when it's done, it's their hobby. They're on to the next one.
And they want to know every single turn screw and so on.
done
I mean, and the correlation there is quite obvious. Is when they sell for extraordinary figures as projects, you can almost track exactly what's going to happen next. They're going to be, at extraordinary expense, one of the best restorations that
exactly.
is going to be found in the market.
Yeah.
It doesn't naturally reflect in values because ultimately, once they then have finished, they start to get used and they then fall back.
Yeah.
But as you said, the journey.
Yep.
Or the
It's
destination.
journey. There's no such thing as free
Yeah.
motoring.
And it always does bring in, there's always a nice point sometimes where people can purchase cars that are restored and not longer because so many people do like the project.
Yeah.
So what do you think? So those two Wolf of Wall Street cars, so we all agree, did we all agree that we would have the crashed one?
Yeah,
I think
I think the difference in price is 300 grand, let's say.
Yeah.
I mean, my
Well,
masses have both.
I'm not actually sure if the crashed one is a genuine Countach. I haven't looked
Really?
into it, in
it
detail,
is,
but
but, yeah,
it depends if it's a genuine Countach or not.
I think even
as
as a movie prop.
I think you're right. I'd
mean,
still
it's
rather have it,
incredible,
but
isn't
in
it?
terms of its value and stuff, I'm not sure where that would sort of.
Maybe we should put a
place
straw
it.
poll
But
up.
it'd be
But
interesting to see.
give us your thoughts below. Just let
Yeah,
us know what you think.
absolutely.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's definitely one
It'll be
that
an interesting
splits
one.
hairs, but
Yeah.
I'm surprised that the complete one sold for so much money. But there we go.
It's 3 times its value in America.
Yeah. Now on that sort of realm of restorations, we were going to quickly talk about, and this given to be fair to you chaps and me, of course, we are younger, so we grew up through
Two of us are younger. Fine.
youngish.
The
Get the old boys
younger
out.
part of the
Get the old
office.
boys out if we're not younger. It's cars being modified. Now, when we were younger, so let's say through the 90s and 2000s, it was probably more prevalent than ever for cars to be modified.
Yeah.
For varying degrees of success.
Yeah.
Some looking like they've driven through Halfords backwards, and some spent huge amounts of money to become show cars.
Yeah.
As time moves on, we're starting to see them drift into the classic sphere because of the age of the cars. Now, traditionally, it's been very much sort of poo-poo. People don't like the idea of mod. They want standard. They want original.
Yeah, originality. Yeah.
But as the buyers also get a little bit older,
Exactly. I was going to say, for me, the cars which, we're around cars every day, and the cars that I'm quite into myself tend to be 911s, M3s, that sort of stuff, Japanese stuff maybe. And I appreciate when they're not modified, because I understand that. But if they're modified nicely, like if somebody had, you see a few E30 M3s and people put a roll cage and seats, and it's done properly. It's not driven through Halfords. It's done properly.
sorry,
If I
Halfords,
was-
getting a kick in here.
But if I was buying one, especially like an old 911, I would probably look for one like that because because that's
I agree.
what
I mean,
would want
that's
to use
also
it.
why we've done so well with the resto mod
Yeah, see,
911s.
I don't like it. For instance, a 911 with the aero kit, even factory aero kits, I'm not keen on that.
Yeah.
But then, as the cars get older, I quite like a hot engine. I like that someone's breathed over it and give it a bit more speed. I mean, look, acceptable modifications we all know are
Tasteful.
brakes,
Yeah.
and some people do the power steering, some people air conditioning, and they're hidden, tasteful. But I think more than that, are we going to see? more of the body kits. A good example was a couple of years ago we sold it was a show car, make no bounds about it.
Yeah.
It was a 997 911. It was a laggy old
I remember the
997
one.
with an
Big
auto
wide body.
box,
Yeah.
and it had a full customised kit from, I think it was from Japan,
Yeah.
with Rothman's Porsche
Rothman's
decals on it,
livery, I remember that
air
car, yeah.
suspension. I mean, the car looked incredible.
Looked great.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's
it
to be
drove a bit like a
photographed,
pogo
isn't it?
stick, but
Yeah.
it sold for £64,000. It was probably only worth 15 as a base car.
Yeah.
It
As a
had
base car,
no
yeah.
history. It was just a 911. But it did really capture the imagination because it was
Yeah.
done particularly well. Now, those sort of show cars, there were a fair few about. When we used to buy stereos before, they were getting nicked out of cars.
Yeah.
Of course, all of the stereo system people they used to
Worth
have
more than
show
the car,
cars, didn't they?
yeah.
And remember
All
Citroen
the
sax
speakers in the back and
Yeah.
all that sort of stuff.
I mean, I
I
know
don't think
now.
they've aged quite as well.
No,
those ones.
also when you sell an XR2i or something now, and you look in the back and they've got big holes where they
Where
cut
the
out the
speak- yeah,
speakers.
the speakers were-
Where can I get an original
Have to get a new
parcel
one of
shop?
them.
You
So that's
can't,
another one you
that's the short
don't want.
answer, yeah.
But there are certainly things I think tastefully that will probably become more.
I think
Yeah.
there's a fine line between the tasteful modifications and the ones that sort of detract from the values
Yeah.
of them.
I mean, one big car
and you'll
is
see
the,
that as they go through.
is the Alpha Giulia GTs. A lot of them have little Alphaholics
Haven't they?
upgrades.
Yes.
And actually, I think if it's Alphaholics
Over a
parts,
standard
and you
car
can
and a
use the
modified
name,
car,
probably helps the
yeah.
value. You know, a nice suspension or a nice set of
I'd
wheels,
agree. It's
engine.
probably one of the best examples of
Yeah.
very. If you take a standard Alpha and you took a slightly souped up Alpha, I think most people steer
Probably want-
towards that.
I think
cars have
with
come a
the
long way.
generation coming through, I think most people want something that's been modified,
Yeah.
but modified tastefully. But ultimately, they want something that's probably a bit more reliable than
Yep.
the normal car,
Yeah.
the sort of standard car,
And a bit more
something a bit more
poke.
drivable, a bit
Yeah.
more poke.
Yeah.
Just a bit more user friendly.
Yeah.
I've always thought
Um,
even like a really early, I've said it to a few people and they scoff at me, but like a really early E-Type,
Someone's scoffing.
you know, they're okay, but the really early ones with Mossbox, you've got
Yeah.
an hour to drive it, and lots of people put a 5-speed gearbox and things like. And I hate to say it, but if you drive one with a 5-speed gearbox, you know, if a 5-speed gearbox was widely available, I think Django would have
in
used
there.
one.
Well,
yeah.
hence
You
the,
know,
you know,
it
hence
does
they cut
improve
holes in the floors and things.
Exactly,
You know.
it improves the car. to
We
me.
all know that the Series 3 was a better driving car than the Series 1. Unfortunately, it was just ugly.
Yeah.
But cars get better. They don't tend to get worse.
No.
And so,
So why not improve it?
And
I
ultimately,
think.
when we used to modify cars when we were younger, which was about the same time, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Maybe just about
when
the
we
same
used to do
decade.
that, what we used to do is we'd take things that come out of new cars and we'd want to put them on our cars that were older because we couldn't afford a new S class.
Yeah, exactly.
So
Yeah.
we'd put stereo systems, we'd put TVs, we'd put
upgrade
better
it, wouldn't you?
stereos and so on and so forth.
Still
And-
going on now with the touchscreen
Yes,
radio
yeah,
system.
the old
I
Apple
mean, I
Play.
think we had a car in the sale in November, an Arnage with the Apple CarPlay, and it was like an iPad. It was
Yeah.
brilliant. I mean,
It just
anyone
sits there.
who wanted something that was just easy to use with everything on, and I mean, I remember sitting in the car park and I was just sort of
You
swiping
can
through
almost
the,
make
the
any
apps. It was
classic
brilliant.
like a usable. I know with a lot
Yeah.
of old 911s they put this Porsche retro.
Yes,
Yeah,
they're actually really expensive
yeah.
but clever.
Yeah, and you can have. I think you might be able to have Apple CarPlay on it maybe. And
You can certainly have DAB and then you can control it from your phone.
Yeah,
So in
and
the
to a
same
lot
way.
of people that
Yeah.
makes it.
I think
a
technology
usable car to them.
Technology has become really useful in motoring, but
Yeah.
I think power upgrades are always going to be relatively slow. The Japanese,
That's a
the
tricky
JDM
one.
market's tricky
Mm.
because unfortunately, I mean Supras, GTOs. The problem there is that
They've
the
all been
modifications
modified.
went silly.
Yeah.
A 1,000 brake horsepower car isn't very usable,
Yeah.
and nor is it particularly reliable
Although
unless
if you
you're just
get
doing quarter
one,
miles.
because I follow that sort of stuff quite a bit, and there's a few companies which were, Skyline for example, they would build a Skyline when it was a new car. So they haven't modified it. When it was brand new, they'd be a tuning company.
Oh, so I like Roof. All those
Yeah,
places,
there's all these big
Gumbalas
ones, and they really rarely come up for sale. And when
They
the
hold a premium, do they?
Yeah, the properly built ones from all the parts are from one
Yeah.
company, and
A
they
bit like
built
those
the car. They're
Mexico
worth
engines you can buy.
money. Yeah.
Yeah, so very common things you get an Escort,
Escorts,
and
there's
you put
lots
them
of
in this
engine builders
particular
around.
engine builder, and they're well thought of, and that becomes
Yeah.
a value. Okay, so modifications are going to change. They're going to change the way
I
that
think
we
so.
buy and sell cars because that market will come about.
Absolutely,
There's only so many absolute original cars, which is why those values are high
Yeah.
on things like Escorts and. The Cosworths, for instance, loads of Cosworths that you'll look at.
Those were modified.
They've all been modified, so either they're spending great money and trying to revert them to original again, or they're going to have to be a half and half.
That's another car though. I mean, I drove a 2-door Sierra last year, and it was modified a little bit. It wasn't bad, it just made it, to me, it made it so much more enjoyable.
Yeah.
Had,
I think
50
that's-
more horsepower or something. That was it.
That's the beauty of it. There's buyers for both.
Yeah.
There always will be. Some
just
people want
fun.
an original car. Some people want one that's
bear in mind, if you're
upgraded.
buying a sports car from the 80s or 90s, they are slow now.
Yeah.
If you buy a supercar from the 80s and 90s, it's about the same speed as a Fiesta ST. Because ultimately, new cars are quick. They are. The technology's moved on, weight's moved on. If you buy sports cars from the 80s, they are slow.
They are, yeah.
And
Underwhelming.
it's underwhelming then. So you do want that. As long as the brakes can keep up with it, of course, you do want a bit more power. Okay, so that's sort of a bit of a sort of future tip, really, isn't it? We know that's coming. It's how the market responds to it. We know originality has got a great deal of value, but people chase that down like they do with low mileage a fault.
I think upgrades and modifications will become slightly more acceptable as time goes on.
That's just
The
as
next
the
10, 20
generation
years.
changes.
Well,
Exactly.
a
with
decade ago,
generations.
people would, as you said, with 5-speed gearbox, people would detract from any change on a 70s,
You can see
60s
it.
car.
You
And
like
now
what you
it's
say,
like,
Fraser.
actually, you can put aircon, you put power brakes, you can put a number of things,
Absolutely.
retro
Yeah.
fans, because it's
Make it
seen
much
as
more usable.
safer. It won't be long until everyone says, well, actually, a
Do this,
plausible
that, and the
upgrade
other.
is this to the engine, and so on and so forth.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Right.
There you go.
Now, all of the fun stuff out of the way. End of year, of course. We've just had an auction when we're filming this at Mercedes-Benz
We
World.
did. Yep.
Thankfully, because it's been a difficult year, there's been no bones about it. It's a year of correction. John, who was here last time round, it was saying the same thing. People have started to adapt to the fact that the market's probably corrected.
Yeah.
I think in
It's been
some
happening
instances
for 2 years,
20%. It's been happening, but everyone's been resilient to it, haven't they?
Yeah.
And it appears that sort of there's an acceptance now, and from our point of view, and from other auctions that I've tracked in the last couple of weeks, it's been a reasonably solid sale for us, and it's been a
think so,
solid
yeah.
month.
Yeah.
Yep.
So the confidence has come back in at the right figure.
Exactly that.
But the rest of the year, how did you guys find
I
it?
think at the start of the year there was definitely a correction, and it just took a little bit of time for the vendors to process that. But like you say, the sort of back end of the year has been good to us, and overall I think we've had a good year.
Yeah.
But it's definitely been a correction. It's just trying to get people just to realise that.
Yeah.
Once they do, there's plenty of buyers still out there.
There's,
for
there's
these
no
things.
shortage of people. I mean, I sense with people all the time at the auction. I think there's no shortage of the buyers. Some people will know the market's changed, but that if a car is that close to hitting its reserve, you've usually got 4 or 5 people that are
That are
keen
there,
to buy the car
yeah.
after.
Which tells
So
you there's
a
the
bit
value.
of a gap.
Yeah.
And usually we sort of trying to say that it's hard. Yeah.
Well,
It's
that
hard
brings
to-
me to something. So the big difference that you guys bring is real advice when you're doing your jobs.
Yeah.
It's difficult because I used to always joke, what's your job? Oh, my job is to head around the country and disappoint people on the values of their cars, which used to be in jest, but actually this year it's probably been a lot like that.
That was a bit this year.
And-
yeah. I mean, occasionally, look, like we did sell some cars at Mercedes that went well
way
past the
above
estimate.
expectations.
And,
But that will always be
yeah.
the case. When
There's
we talk
always gonna
about a
be-
correction, we're not talking about the outliers, are we? We're not talking about the one of one or...
It's the general
it's
market
the,
is definitely corrected.
Yeah.
But there's, like you said, there's always going to be 1 or 2 that do better than the estimate. There always is. There always will
And
be.
that's ultimately why you do come to us. You are trying to overachieve. You are trying to see that your car is better than the rest, and therefore yours makes that much more. But ultimately, if your car is one of 50 on the market, if it doesn't stand out, then
gonna
it is
make its
going to make the market value.
But the
And we
irony
hope
is-
to make a bit more because we're in auction and we're getting people's emotions going.
Irony is at the minute though, if people do set a reserve which is sensible, most of the cars, if you look into it, most of the cars that sold really well, the reserves are usually quite sensible, and it means all
Yeah.
those people that would be in the office trying to buy it afterwards end up with no choice but to bid because they know it's going to sell.
Yeah.
And
Ultimately,
that's how it works,
for
yeah.
instance, a car that's offered at no reserve, of course, everyone phones up, can I buy it for the auction?
yeah,
Well, no, you can't.
It's gonna
unfortunately.
make a fortune.
It's because it's in there in the right place.
they're always
and
the ones who've
Everyone's
got
the one.
20
They're
or
the ones
30
that do
inquiries
I
on.
wish I had the ability to put cars in at no reserve because it always makes more money.
and the SL55,
Prime example.
That we all knew it was going to sell really well. But
Not
sold
that well.
Yeah, sold a lot better than I
not that well.
expected.
That's down to the ability, though, of customers to take that advice and also have that ability to take that risk because not all of us
Yeah.
can
Yeah,
do
it's
that.
different circumstances.
But the one thing, see, this year, interestingly, I sold a personal car through one of the online auctions, and I wanted to experience it and see how this works. It was a litmus test for me because they are more prevalent. Auction houses are doing it, but there are also advertisers doing it now. They are different to us. They're not the same.
Yeah.
We're all being called auctions. We're not the same. Let's make a very fundamental line under that. They have their place because I think they have, like anything, a better service, I think, than a normal classified advert. And from our point of view, it's great because people do get used to that being the way in which you buy, the bartering almost, because you go nowadays to a lot of market stalls, the old English way of pay what you're told to pay is gone, isn't it? Everyone wants a deal. So I get that. But there's no service.
No,
Now, the difference, if I call you up, Dan, and say, Dan, I want to sell my car, from the very onset, you want the details of the car, and you want to work through what's the best time to sell that car, the best way in which to sell that car, and to work with my expectations. Yeah. When I did it through an online, no fault of the online, but it was very mechanical.
It's a very different sort of process.
It's because it's a constant machine.
Yeah.
It's just being fed.
It's a classified advert
Yeah.
with a different mute at the end. Because ultimately, when I actually sold it, lovely gentleman bought it. It was a nice car. I had no concerns. But he sent his chap to come and collect it, who then started inspecting it. I know, I'm sitting there.
Yeah, it's not the idea.
But it's sold. But it's not, of course, because it's not sold under an auction law like we sell. So when we sell a car, hammer falls, that's a seal of a contract. Yeah. Subject to the money, of course, arriving, that is basically the car sold between buyer and seller. On the online auctions, of course, they're almost all of them. They're not auctions; they are.
I think especially for dealers, it's. Well, I think it's. I have to check. I think it's under the whole distance selling, basically.
Yeah.
So, they can't. I think my understanding is that the buyer can just give the car back after 2 weeks if they don't want it.
Yeah, I think this is terms and conditions they've signed to, and even then, terms and conditions don't cover negligence.
I think the online platform obviously is more a sort of advertisement platform.
Yeah.
And they don't go as in depth as we do with how we sort of we'll go out and look at the car, value the car, and like you say, what time of the year is it best to sell.
Yeah.
I think with online platforms generally, they'll take the car on and they will put it into their online platform.
And most of the details are pretty much, they were supplied by me. There was no inspection. No one was pulling me up on whether the car was or wasn't. And I know what I'm doing. I know how to describe the car, but of course you want to describe your car as best you can.
Yeah.
I
think there's two. They both have a place in the market, depending on what car you've got, depending on what situation you're in. But I think there's place for both in the market.
Yeah, my key part, and given this year as well, and what we're going to go into next year, now we're going to expect a similar start to the year as we probably ended. Everyone's corrected, so cars should be moving, and we'll move into the spring, and everyone feels good. Coming into the summer, God knows what's going to happen with government and taxes and all sorts of interest rates. I mean, it blows my mind trying to think about that. Yeah. And there's always extenuating circumstances that do have an effect. But you guys, myself included, we are trained to understand the marketplace. Now, we also know a lot about cars. Not every car. To be honest with you, if you have a really, really rare car, you probably know a little bit about the car than we do. But we do know what the market does, and we can advise you. The frustration is sometimes that you're battling against someone that's just saying, yeah, whatever you want, we'll get it, because that's just not true. And that's existed for years. It's always existed in some way, one or another. But you should, if you do contact an auction house, there's Historics or one of the other big auction houses, make sure you make use of that service, because ultimately what we do know is through the summer, when the market was really difficult, we were telling people, but they would not listen, and it was really difficult. And
you get mixed responses, and some people have got a figure in their mind that they want to try and get for their car, which is fair enough. Yeah. Everyone wants to achieve a certain figure, and then it's easy to put figures forward when it's not your car and to suggest something, but you never know what position they're in, what they need to sell it for, and whatnot. But we're definitely in a good position to advise on the market, because we just see so many cars throughout the year.
We tend to do.
I'll tell you as a good example.
You guys do the same. You can keep up to date with all the auctions, and if you keep up to date with them, you just sort of get a good idea.
It's good tips. Sort of one of our partners, Haggerty, who do price checks, and John Mayhew, who does lots of analysis. You can go to Glen March, one of the auction platform software. They track all the results. Yeah. They're not all there, and you can't always take every single car by a picture, of course, but it gives you an indication. It gives you a good start point. But ultimately, we are there to advise you. And one thing is also, we're different to the online and estate agents in that respect. We don't need every listing. We've got a finite amount of space at each auction. Yeah.
So especially Mercedes-Benz, which is
what we do is we say no. If you want too much money, that's not because we think you can't. It could be possible, but we can't. If we can't give you a decent enough chance of selling that car, we will be honest and we will tell you. And I've told a lot of people, I'm sorry, but I just don't think I can sell that at this point in this market.
Yeah, and also there's an entry fee to pay that we don't want to waste your time, we don't want to waste our time. So, if we don't think we're going to sell it, there's really no point in taking it. So, but people, like I say, people are starting to listen, especially sort of back into this year, and that's why we had a good Mercedes-Benz November auction.
And I think we'll have 2 good auctions at the start of the year.
Yeah.
I think so. I mean, our first auction of the year is 2nd of March at Ascot. Ascot's a great venue for us, always has been. We are consigning now, so as you watch this, if you are interested, get in contact, click the valuation link below. It's free, no obligation. One of these ugly mugs will probably come out and see you, and hopefully give you good news. So, do let us know. And 2nd of March, put it in your diary. There will be some cars online already that you'll be able to look at what's in the auction so far. But enough of all of that. Let's get on to some fun stuff. I've devised a game.
Here we go.
Oh God.
Since it's Christmas,
Here we go.
it's a Christmas game, but with a automotive change. So, what I want you to do is you're going to write the name of a car and stick it on each other's foreheads. Now, it's a little bit of a round robin because obviously we don't want to know. So,
Any car.
Fraser, if you do one for me first. You write down any car, and I've got to guess it and stick it on my forehead. Then I'll do Dan. Dan will do yours.
Okay.
So I can't look.
Okay.
I'll close my eyes. You stick it on my forehead when you're ready. If you take ages, I'm going to know it's a Lamborghini because it takes ages to write.
Well, maybe I'm just trying to throw you off the scent.
Stick it on. Right, okay, I'll hold it on
If you
now.
go a bit lower, then you can't. There you go.
Are we on?
There you go.
Okay,
There we
right,
go.
so
Favourites there.
Dan, close your eyes.
I've got a write in a minute, so I'm going to be.
Hold that on your head.
Right, I've got
Okay.
to look up. I've got to look up to do mine.
Yep, you got to look. Yep, go on then, Fraser. Close your eyes.
Yeah.
Probably gone for the same as you, Matt.
Hopefully not, because I've just seen it.
Right, close your eyes,
Do
Fraser.
you want me to stick it on?
So I got it.
You got it?
Come on.
Luckily, you've got a large forehead.
Oh, thank you.
You'll have to stick it on with
You'll
your
have
own
to hold
hands.
your hand. Yeah,
Right,
hold it with
okay,
your hand.
so everyone look at
Right.
the camera so everyone at home can see what we've got. Okay. Right.
Rubbish at this game normally.
Okay, first up. Dan, you can start. One question at a time.
For you.
No, you've got to answer and try and figure out what's on your
let's go.
forehead. Have you not played this game before?
I
It's been a
haven't.
while, I'll be
I'll
honest. It's been a
confess.
while. What era am I? What year? What era?
50s, 60s.
It's
60s, isn't it?
60s.
Yes, 60s.
Am I an Italian sports car?
No.
Okay. I'm going to go out and guess.
That's quick.
60s. Aston Martin DB5.
No, blimey, you've gone early there. No.
No? Okay. Am I British?
Technically.
Technically.
There's a clue.
God. Okay.
Bit of a collaboration.
I suppose. I assume it's manual.
Yes.
Yeah.
Only manual.
Yes.
Yeah.
Who's the collaboration with? English and
English and.
who else could it be?
You guys, yes, should we give them that?
Give them that.
Will it give it
It's
away?
English, America.
English and American.
It's gonna be a Ford Mustang. Something
No,
like
it's not.
Cobra.
There you go.
Yes,
There we go.
There we go.
Had to be one of the two.
The Mustang's a bit of a strange one.
Yeah. Okay. Right. So I'll start, shall I?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm starting to think I made this a bit tricky now.
Oh
but-
God.
Yeah.
We've only got a short amount of time. Am I Italian?
No.
English?
No.
European. I'll give you that.
Yeah, I'm European. Am I French?
No.
God Almighty.
God.
German?
Yes.
Yeah.
Right. Am I a Porsche?
No.
You're not a Porsche.
Am I a Volkswagen?
No.
Oh my. Am I?
Think
okay,
about
am I a
what.
sports
Think
car?
about what Fraser might go for.
It's yeah.
Am I a BMW?
There you go.
BMW?
Okay. Am I a modern? Am I post 1990?
Yes.
Right. Am I 3 Series?
Yes.
Am I an M3?
Yes.
Am I an E30 M3?
No.
I don't even know my E's.
Oh, there we go.
I'm M3 though.
You've got
is that
an
enough?
M3.
I've got a BMW M3.
Yeah.
The last bit.
CSLs.
There you go.
Oh, that's specific.
You only have to look at Fraser, and you know that would have been what he
Fraser,
chose.
your turn, I
Right
think.
Okay. What era am I from? I think that's quite a good start.
50s, 60s, is it? 250 GTO?
Is that what it is? You told me. I think you might have
Right,
to
let
do
me have another
one.
go.
Oh,
Come on.
quickly, make it really obvious. We've got to wrap this up. Dan will not be invited to the Christmas table.
That was
You've definitely
shocking.
never played this game before, have you?
Right.
Had one job, Dan.
One job.
Definitely won't say the name of this one. Come on.
Right, I did
On
up
it
here.
goes.
Up here so you can actually see. There you go.
Right.
Go.
Start again. Era.
I'm assuming we're talking
I'm
about 80s.
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 Yeah.
It is okay. German.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is it four-wheel drive?
No.
Okay. Is it turbocharged?
It is.
It is, yeah.
Porsche 911 turbo?
Oh, that was quick.
Good effort. Good effort, to be
yes,
fair.
well
Are
done,
you sure you
Fraser.
didn't see me writing it
I
down?
did not
Are you
see it.
sure?
I have my hands
I
on
definitely didn't say it that
To
time.
You have to check the VAR.
To be
I have
fair,
my
this
hand-
time I think Fraser takes that hands down on
Yeah.
both counts because one you pretty much didn't have to ask one question. The second one was very quick. I think
I would have liked to have seen you get the first one. That was my mistake. Oh, well.
I would have Anyway, we'll try it another time. Yeah.
Right, so we best wrap this up. Thank you very
Yes.
much, gents. Now, remember, if you enjoyed this, do check out the Historics YouTube channel. It's not just podcasts on there. There's driving in videos, footage of the auctions, and also clips of the cars as they come up and go through. Please visit Haggerty, our partners, for any values for cars to help you look to value with us and sell with us. They are a good source of information. We've used them a lot recently. Like and subscribe, of course. Click the button. Don't just watch, like and subscribe. And if you want to write any comments at the bottom, please do. You can abuse these guys and myself all you like. We are
Much
pretty
alike.
thick-skinned,
Feel
don't
free.
worry. And remember, all lots will now be live. Well, not all lots. Some of the lots will now be live on the Historics website. More will be coming. Hopefully yours if you want to consign. Now, the next auction, as I did say, is at Ascot, 2nd of March. You're all welcome to join us. Please keep an eye out for those dates for the rest of the year. And if you want to follow us on socials, I'm at Matthew Priddy. We are at Historics Auction. Dan?
Yep. Daniel Godin at Daniel Godin Historics.
Yeah, and Fraser Smith Historics as well.
Now, before we leave, we're going to throw you over to Mark Perkins for his alternative Christmas message.
Ladies, gentlemen, 25th December, Christmas now. I feel a bit like the Queen. Is it 3 o'clock? Well, here we are. Christmas is coming. The auction world slows down a little bit now, ladies and gentlemen, as you know. So, well, thanks again. We've had a good year at Historics. We've had some ups and downs, like most of the auction houses. Mainly positive, and feel the market's probably going the right way. I'd like to think here at Historics we've got time for you. And people probably get bored of me because I chat to everyone and do my best to try and keep you, I wouldn't say entertained, just to make you feel at welcome. And that's, I think, what we specialise in. We're a family business, as you know. You've got myself who heads it. I have 2 other brothers, and there's many of our family team that work with inside our camp. We like to be straightforward, but more than anything at all, we like to be honest. And a few little changes we're doing throughout the next year. We've seen some of the cars and some of the venues, so stick with us. And as Batman would say, sorry, Commissioner Gordon, yes, Batphone, yes, okay. Can we wish you all a Merry Christmas and thanks for your custom. Thank you.